I have a pretty small alumni network in banking, so I'm focusing on volume for cold emails. How much customization would you recommend adding to the cold emails if there's not too many common traits to keep a balance between some customization, but being able to really push for volume in a short amount of time? Yeah, that's a good question. I know you go to a total non-target school, right? I don't know how many alumni from your school actually work in banking, but I imagine it's not a lot. I would say like going for volume is definitely like the right move. And in general, I think depending on who you ask, but like if you ask Daniel Stone, like he doesn't believe in spending time on customization because the trade-off is not worth it in his opinion. He's like, I'd rather send way more emails. Even if I get lower response rate, I still end up having more calls in terms of like the absolute number of calls. And at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? And so I think there's some validity to that. But as far as like how much customization, I think like the bare minimum I would do if I'm a non-target student is I would have at least two templates. I would have one template for non-target bankers, and then I would have a separate template for target school bankers. And so as a non-target school student, I think like you're always going to get more sympathy and just like people understanding how hard it is in terms of what you're currently going through, because, you're always going to get more of that from other non-target bankers, even though they didn't go to your school, but they also went to a non-target school, right? And personally, that's who I would target first. And so I would try to like compile a list of all the non-target school bankers you can find, which since you're not limited to just your own school, like that can still add up to a lot of bankers. And so for that template, I would include the fact that you're a non-target student in the subject line. I would include the fact that you're a non-target. I would also, again, mention that your commonality with them in your email, which is including a sentence. If you look at our templates, like from one a non-target student to another, or mentioning in a sentence where you're mentioning why you chose them specifically to reach out to, you can maybe mention the fact that you're a non-target student trying to break into investment banking, and then you're reaching out to them because you saw that they were able to accomplish the exact same thing. That would be like the non-target template. You can have the same template for all of your non-target bankers. So that's like very little customization. And then just have a separate template where you remove any mentions of the fact that you're from a non-target school, right? Because like I saw this with another student the other day. He was saying like not really getting a lot of responses, and I said, okay, let me see your template. And then he showed it to me, and his subject line was like non-target student seeking advice, and then his email body also re-mentioned again how he's a non-target student. And I was like, well, who are you sending this to? Are you sending this mostly to target school bankers or non-target bankers? And he's like, oh, it's mostly to target school bankers. And I told him like, well, if you're mostly sending this to target school bankers, then there's really no point in highlighting that you're from a non-target school, because the reaction from target school bankers versus a non-target school banker is going to be totally different. Like a target school banker, if anything, they probably just think they're better than you and more qualified than you, and that you don't go to their school, and there's already so many other students from their own school that's reaching out, and so they would rather help those people. It's actually going to like cause them to be less likely to help you. That's probably like the only, I don't say the only, but that's like the bare minimum. Right? That's like very easy to do. And just, I'm not saying don't reach out to any target school bankers, but I'm saying like split your contact list up into two different lists, one list for target school bankers and one list for non-target school bankers. And I would start with the non-target school bankers first. That's like the minimum amount of customization I would do. And then beyond that, I think it's only worth customizing a template for if you have critical mass for a group of people, if that makes sense. So if you have critical mass for like alumni from your school, then have a template for just the alumni from your school, right? If you have critical mass for some people went to like very fancy elite private high schools, and they actually have a lot of alumni from their high schools that are now in banking, you might have a template just for all the alumni from your high school. The trade-off between it takes to go in and customize an email, that versus, well, how many bankers am I actually going to use this from? The higher that number, the more worth it is to spend a little bit of time to customize for that, right? But otherwise, if not, then again, at a minimum, I would do the non-target versus target thing. Hey, if you like this video, click the like button and hit subscribe to get more content like this.